Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. So we haven't actually covered Roundhill's actual dividends for this week. We did some estimates, which actually lowballed what the actual number is. The actual number far exceeded expectations. So let's go into the spreadsheet and look at it. I already have the spreadsheet done. By the way, on our podcast, Brewing Great Returns, we just interviewed Dave Massa from Roundhill. That should be posted sometime before the end of the week. So keep an eye out for that. Okay, so in the spreadsheet here, and I've fixed things up a little bit, so it should look a lot better. So in the spreadsheet, I've already got the dividend info. So for, let's see, this is week number, let's see here. So here's the sum, week number 8. So it was 37 cents. I estimated something like 20 cents, but it was almost double what I had estimated. So yeah, I estimated 20 cents. It's 37 cents, 5 trading days. So if we make this monthly, I probably should just bold the current week. So monthly, this would be $1.62. Annualized, this would be $19.48. The current share price is $52.22. The percent yield, which changes every week, this is now as far as 52-week average. This is close to the highest it's ever been. It's 37.31% annual yield. The price change in the stock, which I'm tracking carefully, and I'll show you why here. um, we are down. So we started out like where we had like lost a lot in the share price. We had lost like 267, but we've come back. Each of the last 3 weeks, the share price has recovered to where we're only down 88 cents from where the stock was at the beginning of the dividend payout. So this is only 1.66%. So here's the important part for XDTE, for the XDTE zero date to expiration fund by Roundhill. They've paid out $1.80 in dividends, and the stock is only down 88 cents. So we're getting more dividends now. We've almost doubled the dividends from what the stock price has dropped, or the share price, excuse me. These are ETFs, not stocks. For QDTE, it was 34 cents for the current week. Before I get to QDTE, let me keep going here. So, in the scenario with $100,000 invested, you would now have 1,915 shares if you round up, if you just bought. Weekly, this would pay about $717.55 in weekly income. Annualized, this would be over $37,000. Now for QDTE, we're going to discuss. And when we interviewed Dave on the podcast, he did hint that there are other funds coming. So we'll stay tuned for that. So it was 34 cents for the most recent week of QDTE. It's a total of $2.29, while the price of QDTE has only dropped $1.71. So $1.71 divided by the original price that it started trading at, that's a 3.69% drop. Whereas the dividend, and what I should do here actually is take a sum of all of these and then divide by the original share price. So the current actual payout is 4.95% in this one. And then in this one, if we do the same thing, a sum of all of these, and then divide by this, this is going to be 3.39%. So that's what we're looking at in this one. Let me move this down a bit. Oops, that's not what I want to do. I'll just fix this later, or I'll just have to move this into its own sheet. Anyway, so it's 3.39%, while the price difference in the share price is only 1.66%. This is 4.95, while it's a 3.69% difference in the share price. Okay, so 5 trading days. Monthly, this would be $1.49. Annualized, this would be $18 off of a current share price of $44.64. This is a 40% annualized yield. There's the price change. On $100,000, you would have 2,240 shares, $770.85 of weekly income. And for annualized income, it would be 40,084. An important thing I want to point out, all of these funds, if you look at form, I think it's 19A or 19C or something. So when we talked to Dave on the podcast today, he pointed out that all of the current dividends are return of capital. Now, return of capital is something that we're going to do a lot more education on this channel because there's a lot of different viewpoints on return of capital. Some of you say, and I don't disagree with you, you say that they're literally returning your money back to you. So, and we've seen that with Yield Max, we've seen that with Roundhill, we've seen it with many others. And so it's updated every time they put out a dividend, the tax form. Let's see what we got here. We got Richard King, we got Chuck Stank. Oh, retire on dividends, welcome. And then we've got Blake Downer. Their diagonal calendar spread strategy is pretty attractive, perhaps the most attractive from among the different funds where we have interviewed the managers, CEOs. Yeah, so we really liked it on the podcast today. So what you're saying is the round tree is becoming more attractive. I think so. As a full disclosure, I'm not invested in any of these myself. I am invested in Yield Max and I am invested in some Defiance. But if I had to pick, I think I would rather be in these than Defiance at this point. And I've had both fund managers on. So no bias one way or the other. It's just on the performance of the funds. Okay, so back to this here. Somebody's telling me I had it backwards. I'm pretty sure I looked at this right on the email. Either way, it's like a 4-cent difference. Let's see, Roundhill, and I know this is like yesterday's news. Okay, so Roundhill, let's see. QDTE, yeah, you're right. Um, yep, you're right. Let me fix that. Wonder why I did that. Okay, so it's actually, um, let me do this first here. I'll cut this, paste it over here. Cut this, paste it over here. And then I will do this. So this should fix things now. So let me rattle off the numbers again. Okay, so 34 cents over here, which is $1.49 monthly, $18 annualized. Share price of 52.22 is a 34% yield. There's the change in share price, 1,915 shares, 658 in weekly, 34,000 in annual income. So it does make a difference magnified across the year for sure, even though it's like you see what the 3-cent difference does. Okay, 37 cents here as $1.62 monthly. 1948 annualized, 44.64 share price. That's a 44% yield annualized if you round up. On 100,000, you'd have 2,240 shares, 839 in weekly income, 43,048 in annual income. Okay, so what I want to do now, I don't even think I was sharing. Let me start this again. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's do this. So I rattled them off. I fixed them, 34 cents here, 37 cents here. This is a 3.33% return total, realized return on XDTE, 5.02% realized return on the QDTE. And then, so yeah, there's all of our numbers there. Now, what I'd like to do is actually go to their site and let's look at their tax documents. Of course, the canned remark, none of this is tax advice, but we're going to look at their site and see what they say. One thing I want to point out also, okay, on the YBTC and YBIT with YieldMax, these are almost like you could say sister funds. My concern is that these are like a synthetic of a synthetic or a derivative of a derivative. So I was looking at YBTC, and I forgot to ask him this when we had him on, but it's actually, if you look at its top holdings, it's in BITO. It's in not BITO, but calls and puts of BITO, which is a derivative of Bitcoin. So you've got literally a derivative of a derivative. Those of us that know what happened in '08 and '09, that's a bit on the concerning side. Um, and it's the same thing with the yield max fund. So I feel like the YBIT and the YBTC are kind of like the same. I actually don't see a lot of difference in them. Just to be fair, we'll look at all the holdings. Yeah, BITO. See, it's all BITO. And the yield max one does the thing, but this video is not about yield max, so we won't focus on that. Let me actually go over here. They have a lot of ETFs other than just the XDTE and the QDTE. So XDTE's over here. Let's see. I forgot where to ask him where the tax document is posted, but it's Form 19-C. It might be under supplemental tax info. Yes, here it is, Form 19A. So let's look at this for this one fund. Make sure you all can see the screen over here. All right. I know how much we like talking taxes. So let's do this. It didn't quite roll over. Let me stop the share here, go into here, and we'll just look real quick to confirm because he did tell us it's pretty much all return of capital. Let's see, estimated return of capital. So here, okay, this is pretty much the whole dividend. See this? Estimated return of capital, net investment income 0, total for XDTE and QDTE. This amount here is pretty much the whole dividend that I just showed. So let's see, a final determination of the tax character of distributions paid by the funds will not be known until the completion of the fund's fiscal year. That's the same disclaimer that he gave us on the podcast. And there can be no assurance as to the portions of each fund's distributions that will constitute return of capital or dividend income. Interesting. The final determination of the tax character of distributions paid by the funds in 2024 will be reported to shareholders in January 2025 on Form 1099 Div. So you'll see that in your tax forms, of course, as we did with Yield Max for those of us that were invested in 2023. Now, I pointed out with Yield Max that several of the early funds were like all return of capital, and then around November, something changed. When Jay comes back on, he's going to address that in detail with us because he said no question or topic is off limits. He'll take the toughest question. Okay, let's see what Blake has to say here. I think I just answered. I don't think he said they're all return of capital. I think he said they contained return of capital. Well, from what I saw, I just looked at the dividend, and I can do another video on like all the dividends weekly, but I just looked at the month of May. The whole dividend says, according to the tax form, that it's a return of capital. He was clear that even he wouldn't know the percentage. Right. And that's what their disclaimer says too. Let's see, the 19A1 is an estimate until the fiscal year is over, so it's all subject to change. Yeah, that was the disclaimer he gave us too. Anyway, we'll draw a conclusion on return of capital later. We're going to talk about it with Jay, of course. So thank you all for tuning in. I like that we finally had a troll-free video tonight. That's a plus. So like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you all on the flip side. Thanks so much. Take care. Good night. Bye.